Hey, aloha everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness and StandTogetherHawai'i.com. And I'm really excited about our meeting today. Today we're having a meeting with a Big Island lawyer. Super excited. He's going to be introducing himself because I want to share what Governor Green has been doing and try and find some actions that we can take because he's not being checks. There's no checks and balances with this man. But Joey, thank you so much for joining and just do a small introduction of who you are. And yeah, give it to
My
you.
name, can you hear me then? My name is Joey Sapp. I'm originally from Georgia, and I am a lawyer, but I'm not licensed here in Hawaii. But that's because I do a lot of lobbying stuff. I write a lot of books. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and some other stuff, but I moved here to the Big Island about 3 years ago at the behest of a client on government overreach, which is mostly the stuff that I work in is government overreach and corruption, anti-corruption. And well, Hawaii has some issues, and some issues are pretty scary. And there are places in this country where they've already done some of the things that they're planning on doing here. Well, sufficient to say that I've got some ideas that in hindsight would have worked 2020 in several other states, and I'll be glad to share with you. I've got pragmatic boots on the ground experience on how to handle these things, and I'm glad to help y'all out because it could get very bad, and they always stick the bad stuff in the most boring part of the rule that they're writing. And so, I've got about five solutions that I think that every citizen of Hawaii should consider. And I think that, in my opinion and experience, you've got to get together because if you don't, it'll get bad. And here in the islands, you've got it really good. It's self-sufficient for the most part. If things went south on the mainland, it wouldn't bother us that much. But when somebody showed up, they would show up, become deep because this is an important place. So just basically, I'm here to help, and I'll let y'all get back to your.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Joey. So I do want to show what what the emergency proclamations the governor has signed because he's signed them over 90 times. So let me just tell you what the emergencies. So here's the emergency category: housing, homeless, housing. He signed it 13 times. Housing shortage delays due to red tape. The impact on the people, cultural site risk, community input bypassed, fast track development, the constitutional violations, summary of government action, summary of government action, suspended land use, zoning, burial, and procurement laws to expedite building. So that's the first one. Again, this one he signed 13 times. Homelessness, villages, signed 16 times. He signed this 16 times. Reason for the emergency: ongoing homelessness crisis. Okay, the homeless issue has been going on for years, but no homeless people have been just all of a sudden started calling 911. They actually, I remember when this first was going on. I believe this was the that he signed um, prior to the fire, 1 month prior to the fire, and they went up on the recording, and they were like, the children, homeless children. There was no homeless children dying calling 911. The funeral homes were not over bombarded with the homeless people dying. The impact on the people: forced acceptance of developments without public hearings, violation the constitutional violations, violation of due process, emergency powers used for chronic issues. This this emergency proclamation, he took 6 months to create, to do, the governor, and the governor's not supposed to do this. This is not his job. That's legislation. He actually spent and met with over 200 people, and a governor's not supposed to do that to create an emergency proclamation. That's legislation. He was legislating, not being a governor. And let me show you this. The last ones: wildfires, signed this 21 times. The Lahaina fire, dry season hazards, evacuations, impacts on people, evacuations, property loss, and displacement. And the constitutional violations: temporary taking, procurement without checks and balances. So lot of different things happening with that one. Access deer. This is weird. He signed this 20 times. This is an invasive species damaging agriculture and forest. He signed this 20 times. I mean, this is what our governor's doing, is he's going toward and trying to fix the deer issue. And this constitutional violations bypass environmental and historic preservation law. Okay. What's up with that? Now, this one blows my mind. Uncle Billy's Hilo Bay Hotel. He signed this 12 times. This is a reason for the emergency is derelict structure and public safety hazard. He suspended the competitive bidding law. He suspended the competitive bidding law and gave one company in Hilo the contract. Safety zone expansion, constitutional violations, potential conflict with procurement laws. School bus services signed it 6 times. Driver shortages impact school transportation, unreliable. I just want to let everybody know these emergency proclamations he signed, because he signed them over 90 times. Unreliable student commutes, parent burdens, possible conflict with procurement oversight. And then the last 3, condo insurance stabilization. He signed this 7 times. Insurance companies leaving market, rising rates, threat of condo owners losing coverage. Is this the responsibility of a governor to do this stuff? I don't think so. I don't think this is his job. Telecommunication and infrastructure. He signed this 5 times. The reason was storm damage, rural broadband upgrades, and the impact on the people, delay in restoration, loss of digital access, and constitutional violations, transparency concerns, lack of community consultation. They suspended the sunshine law. This means they can go into meetings and have meetings without any public knowledge. And the last one he signed was flood and tsunami statewide. This varies. This is the newest one he signed. So what looks like he's doing is he's like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And what laws need to be suspended in order for me to do what I want to do? That's what I'm looking at. So, Joey, after seeing that, what's your take on these emergency proclamations that he's signed over 90 times?
Well, after a while, it no longer becomes an emergency. Part of the separation of powers deal is the governor is the executive. He's supposed to take on the ground action like any other executive would. It's the legislature that's supposed to deal with policy issues, money spending, and stuff like that. And the judiciary, of course, is supposed to be the referee in it. And what you've got here is what I would call a dry tyranny. It's a situation where he's going to do these executive emergency proclamations until somebody says something. And
Yep.
once the legislature has met, then whatever thing that was an emergency proclamation then should technically be dealt with. There really should be a hard line on how many emergency proclamations in a row you can do, because what these emergency proclamations are doing is they're overriding legislative law. But see, the thing is if they're overriding it to the good and it's something that we like, then we're not going to say nothing and we're actually going to contribute more. It's only when it starts hurting us that we need to complain or whatever. And sometimes it's only when we find out that it's going to hurt us, and then it's too late. With your banana sheriffs, that's something that you got to worry about. The banana sheriffs are what I call the agricultural people, like the game wardens or rabbit sheriffs. But anyway, basically the legislature's got to do something, and they shouldn't do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just never heard that word before. Dry tyranny. That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna name this video. It's
Well, yeah, it's kind of like dry snitching. If you've ever I've done a lot of criminal defense through the years and been involved with a lot of not so sunshiny things. Yeah, dry snitching. It's when you snitch and you don't really, you've got the out where you can say, "Oh, I did wrong. I wasn't really doing it." But yeah, that's what it is.
so the legislation is not stopping this man. So he is doing this under the HRS 127A emergency bill law that was passed. And it says in that the emergency is only supposed to last 60 days. And then he resets it again. and then it's another 60 days.
Yeah.
So he's signed these emergency proclamations over 90 times and nobody's checking him. There's no legislation, nothing. So
Yeah.
what can the people do? What can we do? Because nobody's checking this guy.
Well, and that's where you got the question in there, right there. Most people are scattered. Whenever we're scattered, we're acting into ourselves, and even when we come together, it's very hard to become of one mind. So that the sum is greater than the whole, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And what you could do is there's something called quo warranto, and it's where an aggrieved citizen with standing can challenge any kind of government action or even any corporate action, any action where there's a charter that spells out specific duties. And quo warranto is just Latin for by what authority. And that's when the court systems could get involved. Because it seems you've got to remember we've got three branches of government: legislative, judicial, and executives. Well, if the legislative isn't going to do something about it because maybe they're busy, maybe Hawaii's a pay to play state and they've been paid not to play in this game, um, let the judiciary have a say. Quo warranto, which is basically when an officer, an emergency coordinator, as it were, or any official that claims extraordinary appointment powers only because of the proclamation and they wield authority not conferred by statute, a quo warranto position does rise. And it says, by what authority are you doing this? What is your power? And it's got to be a specific power, an official power, and it can't be any abstract, for the children or some shit like that. Anyway, um,
Right?
anyway, it's got to be a petition in the circuit court that the burden is on the petitioner to show that the right is arbitrary or capricious. And that's just that was a boring statement that I tried to make somewhat exciting, and you couldn't hardly stand it. So imagine what boring content it would take to actually get this guy into court and to call him to account, because we're so used to a tabloid mentality nowadays with the infinite doom scroll that we just
Yeah.
can't pay to some really important but boring things. And I hope I didn't go off the rails with that, but
No,
Michelle,
that's true.
Michelle,
It's play.
Michelle. Okay, so didn't For Our Rights sue Governor David Ige on the emergency going over 60 days?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how it stopped. So yes,
No,
it didn't stop.
no.
stop that
Well,
way.
they sued him. So if you look, if Mr. Sapp, I'm sorry, my name is Kalehai, but
Hello.
anyway, I pulled the lawsuits on that, the litigation on that, and it took it. I think I got to go back and look and see what happened, but the intermediary courts didn't find the governor guilty of violating the HRS 127A. They didn't find him guilty, and he went 120 days.
Yeah, no, that's correct. But see, the thing is with that, I think, and I could be totally wrong, but I think that was a step in the right direction is stopping it because we were getting it known. Hey, you can't be doing this. But I do know what you're saying, and that is correct. That is correct what you said.
My
Well,
my my
sometimes they,
point my point is that they set a precedence for that court case. So for what you guys are talking about, the 127, so the emergency. So if the courts, another body of government, found it not guilty, because if you read the statute, it's plain as the nose on your face, shall not exceed 60 days. So if the courts can overlook shall not, which is in the law dictionary, shall not means absolutely cannot. And if the judges decide in the judiciary that it's okay for the governor, what does that tell you? That the
Well,
only recourse is going to the people. You got to go to the
as a matter
people.
of fact, there are actually five different spheres which you could attack this with, and I'm trying to make sure that I can see this and all. The judicial challenge is, of course, what everybody thinks of as number one. That's the legal realm, and it's you file suit, you get injunctive relief, etc. But the next thing is legislative reform, and that's the political aspect. You see, I learned a long time ago that the only way I was going to be a responsible, productive member of my community is if I was the one that defined what the words responsible and productive meant in my community. So if you have a law that's causing a problem, you write another one or you write it out. That's one of the things I do in my lobbying business as well, you know, and you find the weakest point to go to, because that way you can draft amendments, you can testify, you know, you can bring some stuff out that's really got a lot of shame power in it. And that's an incredible, the shame, if you have any shame anymore, some people don't, but it's an incredible power, and you can get the law changed. And if the legislature changes the law because a judicial opinion says yes means no, and the legislature changes it to say no, yes means yes, then they've got to take that into account. And if they don't, then the system becomes broken. But I've recently been involved in a case where a large transnational bank lost a mortgage foreclosure. They waited 3 years, refiled it again, didn't mention the first loss, and they managed to steal a house. Now, we couldn't do that, but they can, because they're big institutions and they pay when they play. Hawaii is very much a pay as you play state. But now your next one is public advocacy, which is the media campaigns, public awareness, and narrative framing. You do these things through a political action committee, a super PAC, and I have packets of information available to anyone that's interested in how that works. And you basically can get $199 from about 2,000 people that have an interest in this. You won't have to report it to the FEC or anything, and you can use that money to run those 5-second YouTube ads that you can't skip that says, hey, they're doing some crazy stuff over here, look at it. And if you flood everyone within a certain zip code with those 5-second, you can't skip them YouTube ads, if you do something like that on Instagram and stuff, you're going to get a result, because people will be so sick of it. That's political also. You also have administrative oversight, where you complain to the ombudsman, to the feds. You know, you do requests, you get oversight petitioning. There are specific administrative actions that can be taken. And, you know, I'm working on some books right now that involve scripts to use at places like these administrative oversights. It's where you start that slow, fine grind. It's what your neighbors will do if they lose the red velvet cooking contest at church, and they dial the 1-800, he's got pigs in his yard number, and they come and they take all your stuff. Yeah, those are the administrative people. Now, I think what everyone would really like to do is direct resistance. Like, for instance, I sell pitchforks and torches every once in a while. It's illegal. It organized and civil disobedience. You document their enforcement, and you finally get legal support. And that's where you do your petitions. That's, you know, of course, you see the sit-ins and all the stuff. Think Selma, Alabama. Think Martin Luther King Jr. Think some of the people that are complaining about the military being on the islands, you know, and some of the other places. Those are your direct resistance. People like that, if you're going to do that, you've got to be willing to go to jail. Some people aren't willing to go to jail for anything. But those are your five major strategies to deal with this. Is a judicial challenge, which seems to have failed. It might not have. A legislative reform. You do public advocacy through ads. You file every kind of complaint you can with the feds, civil rights, Department of Justice, all that other stuff, and then direct resistance.
The quo warranto. Now, I know that what Calais was saying is accurate, as far as they did take this to court, even though the courts, I mean, they could have kept going with it until it went to the Supreme Court, but they didn't. But there can be a different angle for the quo warranto.
The passage of time alone is enough, because if you have too many repeats of the same action that is questionable to begin with, you start getting into arbitrary and capricious actions, especially once again when it overrides the legislative mandate. One legislative session maybe, but then you've also got the canon of construction, which says you should not construe a statute so as to render any of its words meaningless. Now, having not seen that Court of Appeals opinions, the Intermediate Court of Appeals opinion, I don't know what tact they took, but it does sound like for some reason they rendered a part of a statute meaningless. And maybe you need one to go up to the Supreme Court, because it's the Supreme Court that matters, not the Intermediate Court of Appeals. But you also have a Supreme Court in a state that's pay to play, that has at least 2 openings on it, that are appointed by rotating good standing attorneys. And those good standing attorneys are more often than not going to be prosecutors, county attorneys, bank attorneys, and other interests. There are going to be very few public interest lawyers, public defenders, or plaintiffs lawyers. But what we do have, though, is a repeated enactment of emergency proclamations that deny statutory mandates. What you've got now, though, are these homelessness programs. Where's the money going? These no bid contracts. Prime example on the Big Island here. You have had Nan Inc. get a no bid contract, $330 million to redo the sewage infrastructure. Nan Inc. is the alter ego of a gentleman that's been convicted of contracting fraud 4 times. 4 times. He's not allowed to contract with the federal government. I've seen sovereign citizens do a better job of hiding their identity from the man than this guy's doing, and he's pulling in no bid $300 million contracts. It is pay to play. So you challenge some of these proclamations by looking where the money's going. See who's losing money whenever the statutes, or whenever the proclamations are in effect, who loses money? When the statute's in effect, who stops getting money? Those people. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be your unions, number one, because I'm sure that there are a lot of hardworking Big Islanders that run construction businesses that would love to contract with the government and probably haven't been caught 4 times, 4 times doing government contracting fraud, and would help some other people. But that's just, it's just a thought. And you also have some farmers and other people. They say that a lot of the farmers and agriculture people really were going for the banana sheriff thing. They really wanted these people to stop the agricultural crimes. Where are they? Can we talk to them? What was this about? Because pretty soon these guys looking for bad bananas and beetles will come into your house just like CPS without a warrant, and you'll let them, and they'll take all your stuff and you can't stop them. So yeah, that was something that's got to be nipped in the bud before it even gets going.
So you're talking about the new law that they passed.
Yep.
Let's talk about that in a second, because I do
Okay.
want to. I do have a question about the quo warranto.
Yep.
By what authority do they have this? If we didn't, so I think what we're going to do first is the administrative oversight and just bombard them, because
Yep.
that's the easiest one to do. And that's the easiest action we can all take. So I will, and with Calay's help and anybody on here, Ken, Claudia, Sharon, Sarah, can help give me steps to give to people. Let's set that up. If you guys are watching, you live on the island, the Big Island, please join standtogetherhawaii.com, standtogetherhawaii.com, because I think the administrative oversight is the easiest one we can do first. And then my question is the quo warranto, by what authority, if we didn't do the 90 days, even though I still think, the 60 days, because he shouldn't be able to keep repeating that. But we could do we could go under, like you were talking about the charter. If anything was incorrect on the
Yep.
charter, violated sunshine. What gives him the right to do that?
Exactly. And so the thing is anything that they've done otherwise is void. It's not just invalid, it's void. But if you allow it to go on long enough, custom and practice can make it okay. So even if you resist, and you don't think you're getting anything, enough resistance and it will flip the clock. Because sometimes you just don't want the bad part and the bad things to happen, or you don't want unintended consequences. I believe there was something to do with the master plan for the Big Island that you were working on. And the whole thing with that is we ain't got to cut it right now. We just need to kick it down the road a minute. Every time you kick it down the road, you don't have bad things happen. And so, well, another one that is really good that I personally like, and even though it is labeled, as you'll see, it's labeled as illegal. It's not really illegal. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of like a guy doing contracting with the government, getting a no bid contract when he wasn't supposed to, It's as illegal as you want to be. Okay, when you direct we basically have sit-ins and you have petition drives and you get the people at the church to write letters. You get people in the organizations to write letters. You come together, you have potlucks and things like that. And they call it illegal because they don't really want you to do it, but it's not very much. This is the other one, political pressure. Yep.
So again, if you're watching, join standtogetherhawaii.com, because I'm with these guys' help. Together, we're going to create some actions to stop this insane governor who just thinks he can just keep suspending our laws right and left and make whatever emergency proclamation he wants to make. And without any checks and balances. Nobody's checking and balancing this man. We're gonna work together on this.
Yep.
So standtogetherhawaii.com. We have, okay, great. So if
Yep.
any of you guys watching, listening, if you have been harmed by these ridiculous emergency proclamations that have suspended laws without legislative due process without testimony from the public. If you have been harmed, please contact me, Michelle@blossominnerwellness.com. And also, do you guys have here live with me? Do you have any questions for Joey on this particular topic? And then I want to talk about the House Bill 427, Biosecurity Office.
If there was anybody that should have the power of tyrant or dictator in a limited spot in our governmental system, it's the Inspector General. The
It's called,
Inspector General is the official version of a special counsel.
okay, so in Hawaii, it's auditor. They have a position. It's the Hawaii State Auditor.
That would be it.
That's
They're
who it is.
oftentimes good to go with. And also, anytime federal money's there, if these proclamations have affected anything that involves the distribution of federal money and it's for private interest, then that becomes a federal issue under the War Profiteers Act, which is a QUITAM action, a QUITAM action.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a screen share really fast and show you what I just found. Inspector General to provide the adjunct general a continuing assessment of the matters affecting discipline, training, and readiness. Is this who you're talking about?
That's one for the Hawaii National Guard.
Oh.
It's the title that's outside of the system that has. It's almost like the king's fool used to be back in the Middle Ages. He's the only one that can make fun of the king and talk power to the king, while the Inspector General is the only one that can come in and call people out usually. And so there's a lot of unfilled Inspector General offices in the federal government right now. So
okay, and this one is another one, Inspector General IG. This is U.S. Army Hawaii.
okay. Well, I tell you what, look up Inspector General, Department of Justice, and I say that so that you can see the context, because Hawaii seems to be in a military context. Okay. So you can see that they are basically what they do, audits.
That's what
So
she
yours
said.
would be the auditor.
All right.
So that's your analog, and your auditor can go and find stuff, and it's very, very hard to get out of an audit type trouble, especially if you can show right now there's a Democratic administration in the Hawaii government, and obviously President Trump is not a Democrat, and he has reasons. He has reasons. It's very personal between him and Democrats, and some people, just need to be made an example of. If you make an example of someone, or if you make it personal, then that's whenever they'll spend whatever it takes. So if there was a way that they were misspending money that the Republicans could take advantage of right now because of these proclamations, which are quasi-legal, then you would see some action on the federal government to make an example of, don't do this again. Does that make sense? It's more of a strategy play than anything else. Is you want to give your enemy's enemy something to go at your enemy with. Anyway.
Okay. You guys have any questions on that? This is all new to me, so it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I know Calais has definitely done more homework on the charter, Hawaii charter, and stuff like that. So I would really appreciate some support or action steps that people can take because this language even is a little bit challenging for me.
I have a question for the attorney because we're considered, people here at least consider that we're an occupied territory and not actually a state, and that puts us under maritime law. How does all of that enter into the picture here as well?
That is taric effluvium. That is bullshit. The United States has this. This is one of the most strategic places in the world, and the biggest, strongest government in the world has it, and it's not going to let them go. And they will give you as many compliance beatings as they need to make that a truth. And so it's nice to talk aspirational things whenever we're in church or we're having philosophical moments, but boots on the ground, Hawaii is a state. And we should be glad it's a state, because if it wasn't, it would be like Guam or Puerto Rico, which is just a territory. And then you're run straight from Washington, D.C., that has absolutely no idea what's really going on. At least being a state, it gives Hawaii, the Hawaiian people, now I'm not saying it's right, it is an illegal occupation and it is an illegal overlay, but it's what's for dinner right now. And if you could channel the energy that a lot of people have on this aspirational rebellion, that, you know, the system is whatever, you know, it's not going to work. It's like when people say that we're just traveling and we're not driving. Okay, you're in control of a death machine going 70 miles an hour. We have a right to see if you're qualified. I mean, it's just reasonable. The people will not be able to get rid of government, but you can get rid of the people in the government, as it were, and take people out of office that are abusing that power and stuff like that. And I would often suggest that you have a homeowners association president or ex-president, along with actually several of them, in a little committee, and make that their mission is to drive these people out of office. And it'll happen. Guaranteed.
Get a homeowners association president? Why is that?
The type of person that wants to be on a homeowners association, and especially wants to have the power of the homeowners association president, is the exact kind of personality you need. Because usually those people, when you hear horror stories about homeowners associations and stuff, it's always the president or an officer or something, and they're going over stupid stuff and they just won't let it go. But you just want to point some of those people in that direction and say, be all the you can be. And that's very effective. I mean, it very, very much is.
Okay, great. Any more questions? And then we'll move on to House Bill 427 and talk a little bit about that. Great. And then what I'd love to do is you guys watching or the live people who are here, let's create some action steps for people. And those people who are watching the video, standtogetherhawaii.com, join me, standtogetherhawaii.com, and I will email you.
All right. Well, thank y'all very much for having me. I hope it wasn't too much. I can sometimes be out of hand. But if y'all need anything.
It was very great. And you gave us some doable action steps. It's like, it's not over the top. It's not going to court, not spending $100,000 on lawyers' fees. You know, we're going to start with the action steps, administrative oversight, the petition and repeal. And we're going to just start, and we got to start somewhere. So let's start there.
All right. Well, thank y'all very much. I'm going to go out now.
Aloha. Okay.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that's our action steps. Let's do a quick prayer and then let's talk about 5G. I'll stop the recording for that. Oh my goodness, infinite creator, great spirit. We just give everything to you. We're so grateful for what's in our hearts, what we're feeling called to do ourselves in this game, in this movie, in this world that we call living in a human body. And great spirit, we know that this is a movie and that you really are here, that light is here, that love is here, that we are never, never alone. And this is the time of awakening, that people are seeing what truly is going on and taking a stand for what is right. And great spirit, we are so grateful for all the angels and the guides that are always with us, always supporting us, always guiding us. And we call forth the time right now that the Aina, the Hawaiian Islands can be free. We call forth peace. We call forth harmony. We call forth that people matter more than these legislative dictators. And we get to watch the movie as those who do not value life, who do not value aloha, who do not value people's private property, as they are peaceably removed from power, or they voluntarily step down, or their hearts are turned to doing what is right for the people. We get to watch as it happens, and we take the action steps that we can take. We give so much gratitude for those people watching and listening right now who also step up to the plate to take their action steps. We make it as easy as possible, and we do this together because we are standing united. United that we all matter, that our children are safe, that each one of us deserves to own our own private property, and we call that forth right now. The government stepping back, we call that forth right now, and so it is. Thank you so much, everyone. Much aloha, and standtogetherhawaii.com. Join that.